Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on back. In this one today, we're going to be comparing Black Ops 3 Zombies and Cold War Zombies to figure out which game is the best. We're going to have 5 separate categories. Each game will get a score 1 to 10 on each of these categories. And at the end, whichever game has the most amount of points wins overall. Our 5 categories are going to be the perks, maps, weapons, mini bosses, and Easter eggs. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now with our first category, we have perks, and our first game that we're going to be looking at is Black Ops 3. Now the perk system in Black Ops 3 is really good with a few flaws here and there. We had the introduction of a new perk, which was Widow's Wine, and overall it was a very solid perk. I'm going to give Black Ops 3 a 7 out of 10 when it comes to the perks. There really isn't anything wrong with the perk system because in this game you also have Gobblegum, so you can just get all of them regardless. There are 2 problems that I have with this perk system, however, and it is the perk limit and the perk variety. The perk limit does nothing but cause more issues when buying perks, and although we got Widow's Wine, which is a phenomenal perk, that was the only new perk that we got for this entire game. So for all these reasons, I can't give Black Ops 3 that many points. Now with Cold War, on the other hand, you have, in my opinion, the best perk system that we have ever seen in COD Zombies. They pretty much took the perk system from Black Ops 3 and completely removed all the bad things like the perk limit and the variety. I'm gonna give Cold War's perk system a 9 out of 10. Like I said before, Cold War removed the perk limit, which was a much needed change. They also made bad perks from the previous games more useful. For example, Mule Kick and Death Perception in previous games like Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 were almost completely useless. But in Black Ops Cold War, they are some of the best perks that you can run. The upgrade system isn't perfect, but having a way to upgrade your perks at all compared to the previous games where you get what you paid for is still much better. Overall, an almost perk system from Cold War Zombies. And with the end of our first round, we have Black Ops 3 in last place with 7 points for not having that good of a perk system, and Black Ops Cold War has a really strong start with 9 points for having the best perk system that we have ever seen in Zombies. Now, let's move on to our next category. With our next round, we have maps, and this is arguably Black Ops 3's best characteristic. You have some of the best maps of all time on this game, like Shadows of Evil, Drak, Gurad Krovi, and even the not-so-good maps like Revelations and Zetsubo aren't too bad in comparison to other zombie maps. I'm gonna give Black Ops 3 a 9 out of 10 when it comes to the maps. You not only have some phenomenal new maps in this game, but you also have the return of some of the classics like Origins and Kino through Zombies Chronicles. Some of the maps in Zombies Chronicles also saw huge improvements from their previous iterations, like with Moon for example. You also do have custom zombies, but I won't harp on those too much because not everyone has access to them, and I treat customs as their own league above Treyarch. Overall, really solid maps in Black Ops 3. Black Ops Cold War, on the other hand, doesn't do too well in this category. I'd even argue that this is Black Ops Cold War's weakest attribute. Every map in this game is slightly above average at best. Mauer der Toten is widely considered the best map in this game, but in comparison to Black Ops 3's worst map, Zetsubo, it's barely able to compete. I'm gonna give Black Ops Cold War a 5 out of 10 when it comes to the maps. The maps in this game aren't bad, so to say, but in comparison to Black Ops 3, they aren't at all good. Maps like Firebase Z and Forsaken are very forgettable, and even the most memorable map, which is D Machine, is mediocre in comparison to the greats that Black Ops 3 has to offer. Maps are definitely a really low point when it comes to Black Ops Cold War. With the end of our second round, we have Black Ops 3 taking the lead with 16 points for having some of the best maps that we have ever seen. And as for Black Ops Cold War, it's not doing too well with only 14 points for having maps that aren't as good as Black Ops 3. Still no big differences between these two games yet when it comes to score, so let's move on to our next category. With our next round, we have the weapons weapons. This includes wonder weapons, but we're mainly going to be focusing on normal guns. And Black Ops 3 doesn't disappoint when it comes to either of them. The wonder weapons are some of the most powerful and best that we have ever seen in zombies. You have the best wonder weapon ever, that being the Apothecary Servant. But when it comes to normal guns, I don't think Black Ops 3 does that good of a job. I'm gonna give Black Ops 3 a 7 out of 10 when it comes to weapons. Although the wonder weapons are really solid, the normal guns in Black Ops 3 all feel the same. There are very few guns that stand out, like the Dingo and the Draken, but with the double pap ability, every gun can take you to round 100, so there really isn't a point in being picky at certain weapons in Black Ops 3. There are even some weapon classes in this game like explosives and launchers, which are completely useless because you can't double pack-a-punch them. Overall, Black Ops 3 has some great wonder weapons, but the base weapons are somewhat forgettable. Black Ops Cold War, on the other hand, is almost the exact opposite from Black Ops 3. In this game, you have so many guns that each feel unique and usable because of the rarity system, but the wonder weapons are the ones that suffer a bit. Now, there aren't any bad wonder weapons in this game. In fact, all of them are really solid, especially the ray gun and the Cerberus. The problem is that they just don't compete with wonder weapons in Black Ops 3. Regardless, I'm gonna be giving Cold War Zombies an 8 out of 10, however, because of the weapon rarity system. A lot of the weapons in Black Ops 3 were completely forgettable and useless to some extent because of the base firepower, but in Black Ops Cold War, you have gun rarities, which makes each weapon a bit more consistent for higher rounds. Melee weapons and explosives are actually really effective in this game, unlike how they are in Black Ops 3, and every other weapon class has at least one weapon that you can somewhat use for later rounds. Overall, really solid when it comes to weapons in Black Ops Cold War. With the end of our third round, we have Black Ops Cold War still in last place, but not by much with 22 points. And we have Black Ops 3 still riding in first place, but just barely with 23 points. Some of you guys might disagree with me on the weapons category, but I personally think that Black Ops Cold War is a bit better. But with that being said, let's move on to our fourth round. And with our next category, we have mini-bosses. This one is going to be the mini-bosses that spawn in the map that aren't zombies. The normal Easter egg boss fights are going to be for the next round and are not going to be included for this round. When it comes to Black Ops 3, you have some really solid mini-bosses. The Margwa and the Panzer are two of the most iconic and best mini-bosses that zombies has to offer. I'm gonna give Black Ops 3 a 9 out of 10 when it comes to mini bosses. This game has a lot of them, and for the most part, they aren't that annoying. You can easily handle most of them, and they all have fun mechanics that switch up the gameplay. The ones that I don't like are the spiders and the thrashers on Zetsubo, but other than that, this game has some really solid mini bosses. With Black Ops Cold War, you also have some phenomenal mini bosses. My favorite and arguably one of the best of all time is the Megaton. He gives a ton of points and other types of loot that are really helpful. Another thing that I like about Cold War is that they have different variants of the base mini bosses. Like on Outbreak, for example, you can get a red Megaton that has a lot more health and does more damage, but he drops better loot, and I think that's really cool. I'm gonna give Cold War Zombies a 9 out of 10 as well when it comes to the mini bosses. A lot of them are really good, like the Plague Hounds, the Megatons, Manglers, and even some of the larger ones that you don't see often, like the Abomination on Forsaken or the Orda. They're all really cool and fun. Again, I can't give it a 10 out of 10 because there are a few that annoy me in this game, like the Mimics, but overall, both games are really solid in this category. And with the end of our fourth round, both games got the same amount of points, so there really isn't much of a change when it comes to the difference between the two scores, but the overall scores for each is 32 points for Black Ops 3 and 31 points for Black Ops Cold War. Both are still fairly equal, but that's definitely going to change with our last category. With our final round, we have Easter eggs, and the Easter eggs in Black Ops 3 are some of the best and most iconic of all time. Having a good map helps with the Easter egg because a lot of the steps are map orientated, and Black Ops 3 kills it when it comes to map quality, and the Easter eggs are no exception. So many in-depth steps on every single map, the boss fights are incredible, and the ending cutscenes for each map are really good when it comes to explaining the story and when it comes to the overall quality. I'm gonna give Black Ops 3 a 9 out of 10 when it comes to the Easter eggs. The only issue that I have with Black Ops 3's Easter eggs is the fact that they aren't that good for newer players. Shadows of Evil was the on-disc map, and that Easter egg has so many hard, challenging steps that I don't expect most mediocre zombie players to accomplish, let alone the casual audience. Even things like getting Pack-a-Punch or turning on the power can be really hard to do for some of these maps. If you're a newer player, you might have a better chance at doing something else, but for the pros, there is much to enjoy from the Easter eggs in this game. With Black Ops Cold War, we once again see the exact opposite in this game. While Black Ops 3 Easter eggs were very challenging and hard to do, the Black Ops Cold War Easter eggs are really new player friendly. The game leads you through the map and pretty much tells the player how to turn on the Pack-a-Punch and get power, which is nice. Then you have the actual Easter egg steps, where the game doesn't help you, but the steps aren't that complicated or in-depth. I'm gonna give Black Ops Cold War a 7 out of 10 when it comes to the Easter eggs. There is still a lot to enjoy, but these Easter eggs are designed for the casual audience. If you're a hardcore player, you could finish these maps very quickly without any struggle, and there really isn't much of a reward for doing so. You don't get any cool ending cutscenes for most of the maps, with the exception of Forsaken. For hardcore players, you play the map for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then the game kinda just ends. So for that, I can't give it too many points. And that is going to wrap up all of our categories. For our final scores, we have Black Ops 3 taking the first place with 41 out of 50 points. Overall, a very solid score. This game is for the hardcore and casual audiences because killing zombies is really fun and easy. And if you want to step it up a bit, you have some pretty challenging Easter eggs. Everything about Black Ops 3 all around is incredible. With Black Ops Cold War, we have a respectable 38 out of 50 points. Not as good as Black Ops 3, but still really solid nonetheless. This game is really good for the casual audience, but if you're a hardcore player, there is a lot to be desired. The only big downside that I see with this game, however, is the maps. A lot of them just aren't that good in Black Ops Cold War, and that holds this game back a ton. Overall though, both of these games are great. I love Black Ops 3 and Cold War Zombies. They are some of the best zombie games that you can buy, but if I had the option to pick one, I'd pick Black Ops 3. Anyways guys, that's going to wrap up the video for today. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe, do all that. Leave your comments down below if you want to see me do any other type of content. Check down the description as well for more zombie related videos. And yeah, I got nothing much else to say, so peace.